Pinball circuit activated.
All right, I got the playfield on the rotisserie. First step that I like to do in this is mount your pops. So you have to countersink these holes. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3 of them on each of the pops. And these holes are not, they don't have enough clearance for the pop nails. So here's a pop nail, and this head has to be completely flush. Okay, so first of all, this hole isn't quite big enough, but it'll work. I'll drill it out just a little bit. But you have to countersink an area that's big enough for this head to be able to sit flush in the playfield. Okay, so if you don't do that, this is never going to seat correctly. So that's step one. What I do for that is I have a little countersink bit that I bought specifically for this purpose, and I just countersink them in. I just kind of use the head of the nail itself as a guide of how big that countersink needs to be. So we're not quite big enough. That should be about right, but let's double check. Yeah, so that's pretty good there. So I'm going to do the rest. Now, what I'm going to do is open that, open this hole just a little bit more. So the goal here is to make it just a little bit wider so that you don't have as much trouble getting the screw in. And this is barely taking anything out. Okay. So I'm just going to put all these in place now. And there's little fins on this that are going to hold it when they get hammered in. So you don't really have to be all stressed out that, you know, I mean, if you want to be, I guess make your life difficult, you can screw them, try and screw them in with a pair of pliers. And that'll hold them a little bit better, I guess. But I've never had an issue with a pop nail backing out. I mean, first of all, it's got those fins in it. You're going to hammer it in, and it's being held on the other side by the pop racket. So I've never had a problem. You do it the way you want to do it. One thing that I do like to do is in the nut driver sets, you're going to get a 3/16 nut driver, and you almost never use this thing, but it does work really nicely for nailing in these pop nails. So you're just going to nail it to where it's almost flush. Just get it started, and then come in with your nut driver right in the middle, and you want it flush like that. Okay, so these are all flush now, and now you can see why it doesn't matter at all that you countersunk them as far as the final look of it, because the heads of these are the same size as the countersinks, and it doesn't make any difference. If you don't countersink them, you are never going to be able to get them flush correctly, and if you do hammer hard enough to do it, you're probably going to crack out clear at artwork. So just get yourself a countersink bit and do it the right way. Okay, next step in this process is going to be building up the pop bumpers. So these are usually too tight. I like to open them up just a little with a Dremel. It's just a Dremel with a little sanding bit on it, and it happens to fit. These little sanding drums will fit just perfectly in there. And all I really did there was remove the clear that was down inside of there. Because that's usually what causes the issue. See, and now they fit in very nicely. There we go. Okay. Now what you need to do, and I always kind of forget which way is which here. The issue that I always have with these is what you'll see in that these aren't drilled correctly. But what we need to figure out, and I always forget. So if you look at the inside of a pop body, there's a little countersunk hole. That's for the screw that goes through to hold the pop body in from the other side. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna locate the brackets that go underneath the playfield. And these sit under here like this, underneath. And the screws that go through the pop body go into this, and that's what locks it down. These need to be located first, and I like to do it, as you can see here, with the pop body here not all the way on, or not fully installed, I guess would be the thing. And that is because what you don't want to do is start drilling holes in the underside of the playfield and start installing screws without this being in the right place. See, so for example, that's wrong. So I have to rotate it this way. Okay, so I just put those screws in, and you need to remember the orientation of this little notch thing. And the reason why is because this is placed in a specific way so that when the pop bracket underneath is mounted, it doesn't hit onto this and cause a short. So you need to keep in mind when you take them off of the old playfield, which way they were oriented, okay? And I know that all three of these were oriented to where they were pointing up towards this upper right corner. So that's how I'm gonna install them all. And if you ever don't remember, that's why you have your playfield over there, your old one, go over there and look. And there's always like a little shadow of where it was. And you can make sure you do put it in the right spot. Okay, now, all you want to do here is just kind of look through and make sure that all your holes are lined up. You're not binding anywhere, that sort of thing. Okay, now what we can do is flip this over on the rotisserie, hopefully, without knocking our drill over. And, uh-oh, I'm hitting one. So we come over like this. Now you can see what I've done, okay? So here's the brackets I installed. And you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that, but this is again why you do this kind of thing, because these little indentation marks are correct. This one's not too far. This one's way off. If I had installed that before I put this pop body on and made sure it was all lined up, I'd have to reinstall it. So you don't want to do that. Next thing you can do is just test fit a pop bracket. Again, just to make sure you're not going to hit anything and that your orientation is completely correct. All right, so sample pop bracket. Just make sure it's going to sit down correctly. Now, you can see why that has to be in the correct orientation. Okay, if that were flipped, well, so for example, if this was flipped 180 degrees and this fat part was back here, you would not be able to get that on. So So I guess the easy way to think about it is that this little notched area goes at the end where all the screws are. If you're smarter than me and can figure that out. All right, now what I can do is install the screws and lock it in. All right, while I got this playfield flipped over, I'll just tell you what we're doing with the insert lights. So this is new for me. I've never used these before. These are called Yopsicles, and this is something that the owner wanted me to try, and I'd never done it before, so I said, sure, why not? So what these are, I'll show you this. So these are little LED boards, and they have a single SMD LED, okay? And it basically replaces your insert sockets. So what you can do, they're really actually nicely designed. This is the side that goes towards the insert, obviously, with the LED in it. The other side, though, I really like that he's put a little marker right where that LED is, so you can center that in the middle of the insert when you're installing it. And then all you do is use the same mounting screw as you had off your old sockets, screw it in, and then when you run your ground braid, you're going to solder the ground braid to this larger solder point here, the same way you would do at the base of the socket. And then your wire, your smaller wire that goes to the two prongs on the top of the socket usually will go to this piece here. So it says plus minus, and I know we all call this ground braid. It's not on a playfield. On Bally's anyway, this actually carries the hot, and this is the negative. So when these lights are activated, it completes this negative. So it says positive, but that's correct. This is actually the hot, even though I call it ground braid. I don't know what else you would call it. Hot braid, whatever. So you can see I've already installed all of these. The other nice thing about these is they're a little cheaper. So each one of these is about $1. And if you think about, what it would cost you. So if you just got LED bulbs and reused the sockets, right? I mean, that would be cheaper. But if you replace the sockets too, it's probably about $2 a socket and bulb. And this is only $1, so it's about half price. So if it works well, and this is a cool time for me to experiment with this and see if it works. If this works well, it might be an option I'm going to use on other games too, because they do install really easily. They're nice and flat. Take some of the clutter off the back of the playfield. So we'll see what it looks like when it's done. All right, so we're now done on the underside. We've got all these screwed in, so now we can flip it back over. Like that. And now what I'm going to do is unscrew all of these screws. And I'm going to actually build up the pop here so that we can run the leads. Now, the other thing you have to do is you do have to run the leads. And the problem is, and this is a problem with every freaking CPR that I've ever done, is that the holes for the leads do not match up with these bases. And it's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So one thing I got to do that I forgot to do is drill these out. Okay, now that you got that done, now you can take the pop bodies off and clean those holes out. Okay, so when you build up a pop, put your base in, spring goes on, skirt goes on. Now, if you have the ones that have the little arrow on them, that little arrow goes to the back. And what I've heard is that supposedly to keep ball from getting stuck back there, it gives it something to bounce off of. I don't know if that's true or not, but. And then you can put your pop body on that, and that'll kind of capture everything. And I go ahead and put these in and screw it down. Okay, now you're going to take one of your pop sockets and go down through the hole. Like that. Okay, next one. Okay. All right, now that's done. We flip it back over. What you can see now is we have everything built up and these are ready to be pulled back. Now figure out exactly where that needs to go. So this needs to go like right here. Like that. And then you just kind of test fit things. Make sure nothing's going to hit. Okay, so when I staple that down, that's going to be nice and clear of all that metal because you don't want shorts. Okay, so now this one goes that way. That one's going like that. Okay, again, there. This one goes there. This one. Okay, beautiful. So the reason I do it this way, and I think I've talked about this in other videos, but the next step is to run the ground or run the braid. And I want to make sure that I hit these spots correctly with my braid because otherwise you have to do little jump pieces and it looks messy, whatever. So that's why I put these pops in first so that I can locate these and get them stapled into place correctly so that then I can just run my ground braid straight across that and I don't have to worry about it. All right, so next step is to run the braid.